Good afternoon, everybody. I'm assuming you can hear me. So you are here for the Progress Not Perfection using ebooks and digital journals for evidence gathering. So my name is Nikki Kimball. I am one of the educational consultants here at Just Too Easy. This session really is going to focus on using JITmix, which is our ebook creator, and then publishing those JITmix books to J2 Journal. Okay, so let's have a look at today's session. So I am going to try and make it a 45-minute session. We'll see how we go. Questions can be asked via the chat function. So if you have any questions at all, any issues, pop them in the chat, and hopefully I've got it open on my second screen, which is why I keep glancing across. So hopefully I'll be able to answer any of those questions as we go along. I'll also offer a Q&A session at the end of the training as well. So if you need to ask any questions, if there's anything left unanswered by the end of the session, you can pop those in the chat at the end. This session is being recorded and I will make it accessible via YouTube later tonight, possibly tomorrow. Now let's have a look at what we're going to actually cover in today's session. So this is all around gathering evidence using JITmix, which, as I said, is our ebook creator. So I've kind of spun the session a little bit. I'm going to show you where you can access further support going forwards via our brand new teachers area. Then we're going to have a quick look at the SAMUR model of technology integration. I just think it's a really interesting thing to look at when you're thinking about using digital content, especially when we're thinking about creating digital evidence books and why we would use digital as opposed to just regular non-digital pen and paper. Then we're going to have a think about how we can use digital evidence in our classrooms, and we're in particular going to have a little think about JIT as a tool suite in itself. So I'm aware there are a couple of people that are brand new to the tool, so I'm going to show you how to use the tools and how the interface works. Then we're going to look specifically at JITmix and how it works, so how we can create these ebooks, the kind of ebooks you might want to create, and how we can create those in JITmix. Then we're going to look at sharing and saving content via J2 Journal. So a very busy session. Okay, let's make a start. So I thought I would spin the session and do the further support first. This is our, I keep saying brand new, it's not so brand new, it's about 6 months old now. So this is our teachers area. So once you've logged into Just Too Easy, from your Launchpad, you'll find the teachers area. You'll also find the library. So this is full of pre-made content. There are some JITmix templates in there ready for you to use. It has been moved. It used to be up here, so it's a bit more obvious. But this is the teachers area. As the name implies, it is just for teachers. So pupils don't have this on their Launchpad. But this is where you can access things like training sessions and live lessons that we've got coming up. So they're all bookable. You can see the schedule and they're bookable. All of our sessions are recorded, so both for our live lessons and for our training sessions, they are recorded and accessible on demand via our YouTube channel. This is where you'll find your dashboard. It has moved recently, so just, if you're wondering, that is kind of where you set up your classes and parent portal and that kind of thing. Support and FAQs. So this is our help desk where you can type in questions and get some visible articles about how to use the tools, including JITmix and Journal. And then also you've got your bookable 15-minute video calls. So if you did want to meet with me, we have a lot of teachers now booking these. Really helpful if you've got an idea for something that you want to use and don't know how, or you want to know a bit more about Journal, for example. You can book a 15-minute video call, not only with me, but with Charlie as well. And then you can join our Facebook group. We've actually got a Christmas paint competition going on in the Facebook group at the moment, so it's worth joining. So that is the teachers area going forwards, should you need any support. Okay, so I was just going to very quickly talk about the SAMUR technology integration model. So I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to teaching with technology. And this is a model really that helps you to implement technology in a useful way. Okay, so when we're thinking about using digital tools, it's not so much that we're aiming for redefinition, but we're definitely going to be aiming for sort of these top three. Okay, so the levels are substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. Okay, so if we're thinking about evidencing, as we're going to do today, using JITMIX for evidencing, substitution would be just having students type their work instead of handwriting it. So that would be them writing about maybe what they've done, just using a word processor, maybe just using JITWrite with a plain paper, just typing. So that is substituting just that writing on pen with pen and paper with a device. Okay, so it's something that has added no benefit really. Augmentation is having students type their work and utilising tools such as speech to text to support their spelling. So using certain digital tools that are helpful, but really don't change the activity very much at all. So they've still got the typing, they might have just dipped into those accessibility settings. And this really is where we're going to start aiming in today's session, is the modification. So it's having students type their work, utilising those tools to support their spelling, for example, but then also publishing in a collaborative space that facilitates peer-to-peer feedback, such as J2 Journal. So it's allowing students to have an external audience for their work, for example, or they might create a painting to go alongside their writing. Okay, so they've used the tools and they've really modified the task in itself. Finally, redefinition. That is where we completely redefine the task in a way that you couldn't with pen and paper. So, for example, students use online tools such as video and animation to convey concepts that they would put on paper in a traditional written assignment. So that is things like, for example, we're going to look at a Titanic evidence book today. So that could be that they've written a Titanic piece of writing, but they've also added in an animation. Maybe they've added in a chart, and then they've recorded audio to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding. So all of those have completely redefined that task and moved it just beyond that kind of substitution. So I hope that makes sense, because everything that we're going to have a look at today really is moving towards that modification and redefinition area of technology integration. Okay, so digital evidencing, what we want to do is we want to allow children digital tools to show what they know by things like taking photos, shooting videos, searching for content, so web searching, recording audio, documenting their experiences, presenting their ideas, integrating art, so you can do that through JITPaint, telling a story, we can do that through JITWrite and JITMIX, sharing with the others beyond the teacher, so that's where your journal is really going to come in, and reflecting and revisiting on those concepts that they've looked at. Okay, so JITMIX is a fab tool. I'm not sure if anybody's used it yet, but it is an ebook creator tool and it sits within the JIT toolkit. So JIT is our Just Too Easy infant toolkit, and it's actually 8 tools within the toolkit. Okay, so Mix is one of those tools, but Mix is slightly different to the other 7 tools. So the other 7 tools, you can use them independently, and I would highly encourage that sort of method, getting them used to using JITPaint, JITAnimate, JITWrite, and creating those independent pieces of work. JITMIX then allows you to wrap those pieces of work into an ebook. So, for example, the children might create, as I said, let's use the Titanic evidence book, topic book as an example. So they might have a front page with a painting that they've made in JITPaint and some writing underneath. Then the second page, they might have an animation where they've animated the Titanic setting sail or hitting the iceberg. Then the third page, they might have a chart, for example, where they've input the data of the classes, of the numbers of people that are in the classes, and then they've created a chart. So they can use all of these other 7 tools within their JITMIX book. Okay, so I am aware there are a couple of people out there that haven't used JIT before. So I'm just going to give a very quick overview of JIT, of the other tools. Okay, so let's have a look at JIT. It is here. So as I said, it's 8 tools. We've got our tabs along the top here, and all of these are different tools. So Write is a word processor, very basic writing. You've got your backgrounds and your different fonts and colours and word lists. Paint is for creating images, paintings, does exactly what it says on the tin. Turtle is for coding, so that's really the beginnings of computational thinking. It's a great move on from, for example, a Bebot. It's a great sort of off screen, then moving on screen, and getting the children to use, directional language, building up algorithms, using a sprite, manipulating it around the page. Chart is where we can create our charts, and we can add our own table in there. We can input our own data. Okay, we've got various templates that we can choose from. Pictogram, very similar, is part of our data tools. So you can create pictograms with your children. You can input your own pictures here. You can use the clip art, or you can draw your own, and you can add your own labels. Animate, you can create your own animation. So this is stop frame animation. Fantastic tool, great for children demonstrating their knowledge and understanding of a concept. Great cross-curricular links as well. It's definitely my favourite thing to teach with. You could use it for the Titanic, you could use it for the Gruffalo, you could use it for historical contexts. It's a fantastic tool. And then finally we have Branch, which is a branching databases, which I feel fits into the maths curriculum around the English Year 4, which I think is Northern Irish and Scottish P5s, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's somewhere in there. And you can add in data and then use sorting questions to sort that data. Okay, so I'm just going to give you an example. Let's create a paint. So I could create a paint using the park. I've got various different backgrounds I can choose from. Let's create a Christmas painting, shall we? I mean, it's November, but it is coming. So we can draw on this page. We've got the undo tool at the top. We can use our Christmas clip art. There we go. We've also got our paint tools here. We can fill as well. So we've got things like 3D textures. And we've also got specific colours. So we've got the colour wheel. So it's a great tool for your youngest children because they've just got those 15 preset, no, that's 11 preset colours, but they've also got the option for older students to choose specific colours. So that's great for things like All About Me's, or if you want to create posters or images for stories. Okay, and then when they're done, they have got the save button up here, and they can save that. That's going to save into their My Files. The other great thing about JIT tools is you've got the audio record button at the top as well, so you can record audio. That's great for capturing things like self-reflection. If the children are recording, if they're writing things, you could record them reading out loud. If you've got children that struggle to get things written down but have a lot more in their head that they're capable of, that's a great way of capturing that evidence without them requiring the requirement for them to write things down. Okay. They can also load work that they've done previously and work on it again. So great for that do, edit, review process. And they've got this publish to journal button, which we're going to have a little look at a bit later, but just be aware that that is there. And then finally, we've got the print button if you really wanted to print things. Okay, so the interface, as you can see, is the same with every JIT tool, apart from JIT Mix. Okay, so that's just a very quick lowdown on how the JIT tools work, and that's important because when we look at JIT Mix, it will all make sense. Okay, so these are just some example ideas that I've got for JIT Mix. So we are going to be going from a kind of evidencing perspective today, but JIT Mix is a really what's the word, flexible tool, in that you can use it in so many different ways. Versatile, that's the word I was looking for. It's been a long day. So this actually is a live lesson, a bit of a shameless plug. This is a live lesson that we are doing, I think, next week. It's not this Thursday, I suspect it's next Thursday, where we are writing a story from scratch and we're using JITmix. So if you did want to join us on that, if you wanted to explore how to use JITmix with your class, that would be a great one to book on to. And that you can book on, remember, in the teachers area off your launch pad. Okay, and we'll be doing The Day My Pet Could Talk. That will be the subject for that. Okay, and then I've got, these are two specific using JITmix for evidencing. So I'll start with this one. So this is my Titanic topic book. It was the one that we advertised the course with, and I think probably the one that enticed quite a few of you to attend. So this would be a book that the children can create. So everything that I'm going to show you today, the children can do on their logins. So this would be a solo child creating this and saving it, and they can then publish that to journal. Okay, so this is my Titanic topic book. This is a paint page. So I've painted my Titanic and we've added some writing underneath. Okay, so there are different layouts for the JITmix pages. I've then got an animate page. This is an animation that the child or I have created using my Titanic. And I've got some writing underneath. I've got that nice writing box. The next page, I have a chart. So you can see I'm utilising all of the tools that we have available in JIT. And in this one, I've added in a table, you can see there. I've added in this data. And in fact, I can change any of this. I could say, let's change that from item to class. So all of this is fully editable when it's in JITmix. Okay, and I've got my numbers. I can change the colours of these sections, for example, and I've got a text box along the right hand side there. Again, I've got a chart with a bit more information here, and I've sort of added to the data that we had earlier, and I've split that into survivors versus victims. Okay, so we can see there was a very disproportionate amount of crew that didn't make it when they were trying to escape the Titanic sinking. And then finally, I've got a write page. So I've added in a photograph of the Titanic and a poem over the top. Okay, so that just gives you an idea of what kind of things we can create in JITmix. So these are all, that's a JIT write page, chart, animate and paint pages. Okay, so that just gives you an idea. And then this one is slightly different, okay? And this is a pupil evidence file. So this is one that I've created as a teacher. And this is a file that shows all of my pupils' work in one ebook. Okay, so this is, my daughter was doing this at nursery yesterday, hence the inspiration. This, I can't pronounce, I'm going to try and pronounce her name. Yayoi Kusama. So this is an inspirational artist, never heard of her until yesterday, but actually she's got some fantastic artwork. And I've created this as a teacher. So I've added in this as a photograph. So this is a piece of art that we used as inspiration, and the pupils looked at different shape, colour and form. And then I've added in these paint pages and added in my pupils' work. So that's something that you could do as well. So it doesn't just have to be individuals, it could be groups of students, it could be a whole class. And once it's in journal, it's also visible to parents if you have got parents loaded on the parent portal. So that's Lottie's, that's Bobby's, and that's Harry's. And obviously I could keep going, but I only had the 3 logins and time to create 3 pictures. So that's another sort of spin on that evidence option for you. Okay. So let's have a look at JITmix, shall we? Okay, so JITmix allows you to choose a page layout, to choose a JIT tool, to create an ebook with those different pages. You can also record sound, edit text, use the accessibility tools like the text-to-speech, speech-to-text, word lists. You can save, and you've also got the option to view in view-only mode. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we created this particular book here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to JITmix. So we're going to do, first of all, we're going to do the version where this will be kind of an activity that the child would do. Okay. Now, what's nice about this is that you could create this. So, for example, we're looking at Titanic this half term. Okay, the children could add to this each week. So they can save, they can come back, they can add another page for each lesson that they've created. So then, by the end of the half term, you've got an ebook that's 6, 7, 8, 9 pages long. Now, what's important to remember with JIT Mix is that it works slightly differently to all of the other JIT tools. So first of all, we've got our 4 different page layouts. So this one here is the tool on its own. It'll make sense in a second. This one here, we've got the 4 different windows with different tools. Okay, and what I can do is I can click and I can choose the different tools. So if I click on this one, I can use these arrows and I can choose the tool. So it's really important to have an understanding of which tool we want to use. Okay, so this red is a pictogram page because it's red. This is a chart page because it is orange. Turtle page, paint page, write page, branch page, animate page. Okay, so it's really important to have a think about the content you want to create or that the children have already created in a JIT tool first, and then the layout. So for example, I've got my Titanic ebook. So I want that to be a front page. So I'm probably going to choose this layout. Okay. And actually, I'm going to keep it as paint because the children have already created a Titanic paint page. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one. And when I'm ready, I'm going to hit tick. So I hope that makes sense. It probably will. Once we've done that a few times, it'll probably make more sense. Okay, so what I can do is I can draw straight onto this page if I wanted to. Oh, didn't want to do that. Okay, so that is a full paint page. I've got all the painting tools that we just had a look at. Okay, I've also got the option at the top here. So these 2 buttons really will be very useful. So the little asterisk one, that gives you the normal pop-up that you get with JIT Paint. So that's all your backgrounds. You've also got the option to add in pictures. So anything that they've added, uploaded, if they've created something in Adobe Express or Canva, for example, they can upload that and use that. They've also got the web search function. So we could even look for Titanic. And in fact, I might do that. So I can add that as a front page. Oh, that's annoying. Let's go for this one. If it comes up with that, generally it means that it's copyrighted. There we go. A new one would work. So just keep clicking until you find an image that isn't copyrighted. So there we go. The other alternative is you can add in work that the children have created already. So for example, maybe you've already spent a lesson drawing the Titanic using JIT Paint. Okay, so you can, instead of clicking on the asterisk button, we can click here, this little load button at the top of our page. And this is where we can add in those files that we've created in the standalone JIT Paint. So I do have somewhere a Titanic painting. You can see I use this all the time. So you can scroll down until you find that particular image, which clearly is quite far down. But you'll notice the 3 tabs here, and this pupils file tab, that is where, when we're creating our pupil ebooks, where they've all got their own page, that's how you do that. But we'll have a look at that in a second. Okay, so I can't find my Titanic. Clearly, I haven't done it for a while, so I'm going to leave my painting. But that's how you would add that in. Then I'm going to click in my box at the bottom, and I'm going to say my Titanic book. In fact, let's add topic book. Okay, we've got our fonts here, so we can change the size of our font. We've got the different fonts available and different text colours. Let's go for grey. I've also got my top word list and my other word list, so I can dip into those. That's through accessibility settings. So the children can hover over any of these. They can listen to those words and they can add them onto their page if they need to. So if I click on that word, that's going to add that into my document. Okay. And then lastly, top right, we've also got text to speech. So anything that they've written, they can listen back to it.
My Titanic topic book.
So really good for promoting that independence with the children to be able to manage their own learning and understanding. Okay, so there's my front page. The only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use my space bar to format that because it irritates me that it's aligned to the left. Unfortunately, there's no alignment tools. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible, but that is your workaround for the older students that need to align things. Okay. And then we've got our plus for the pages at the top. We're going to add another page. So this is where you can then add different content. So I'm going to add in my Titanic animation, and I just want that animation on its page, on a page on its own. I don't want any writing around it. I could add a different one if you wanted them to reflect on it. So I choose your page layout and then hit tick. Okay, and again, I can animate straight onto this page if I wanted to. I've got the option to use the asterisk and add in a picture as a background. I've got background templates, and of course I've got the option to add in pictures there. So if I wanted to, I could animate onto a photograph. Okay, and I've also got the load button. So exactly the same as we just had with Jit Paint, we've got the same functionality here on this page. And I am going to find that Titanic animation. I think it's there. It is. Now, which one am I going to go for? Let's go for this one. So there we go. So this is the Titanic animation that I made in full Jit Animate and saved probably this time last year. And there we go. We've got a Titanic and she sinks. And there we go. Okay. Now, the other thing that I probably haven't highlighted, which I think is a fantastic tool, is the option to record audio. So this is great for, as I said earlier, evidencing maybe some self-reflection. So the children could, you know, say, I found it really difficult to make the boat move in small movements. Next time I will try 2 stars and a wish, whatever it is, you know, self-reflection framework that you've got going that works for you and your class. The other option, if you want to weave in some literacy here, could be that they record some sort of written audio. Okay, so maybe they recorded a story that goes alongside this animation. I have had a question. Okay, so the box with the Titanic images. So you go to the asterisk, you go to pictures, and that little globe button, that is your Google search or your web search, and that's where you can keyword search for anything. So it could be Titanic, it could be autumn, it could be Christmas, whatever it is that you're looking at in that particular. So if I look for Titanic, that will pull that through. So if I hit enter, that's going to pull up all you're very welcome. Okay. So yeah, so remember that audio function is there should you need it. And you can just keep going. So the children can hit save, as I said earlier, they can hit save. Then next week they can come back, open up their JitMix book, add another page, add some more content. And you can keep going. There's no limit to the number of pages the children can add in their evidence book, which I think is really useful. One of the most useful tools I think that this whole thing really adds to is chart and pictogram. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to choose this page layout, and remember I've chosen the page layout and then I choose the tool. So I want a chart page, so I make sure I have orange in that box. Okay, and if I hit tick, that's going to give me that chart. Then I can tick a table, so that's going to drop that in, and I can edit that table. So let's class. Now I can't remember the numbers, so I'm just going to make it up as I go along. So first class I think was 204, and I can use my tab button. So second class was, I don't know, 408, and then third class is 800, for example. Okay, I can then tick which chart types I want to include on my page. Okay, and I can layer those up. So that can be really helpful for the children to, you know, understand sometimes certain charts work with certain data sets better than others. Okay, so you can see I don't really like the line chart, and in fact I might just keep my pie chart on. Okay, you can change things like the colour as well and make it very personal, so the children can do that. Now, the reason I like using JitMix for this is because you've got this text box, so the children can create the data and then they can analyse it, which is a really important part of that kind of data handling. It's the two sides of it, isn't it? It's the statistic, the kind of the creation of the charts, and also the analysis of what that shows. So in this, they could say there were more that. For example, okay, and you've got the usual writing options here, so we can make that smaller, we can change the fanciness of it. You've got your top words, so they've got those scaffolds if they need them, and they've also got the text-to-speech.
There were more third-class passengers than first and second combined.
And of course, you've got your record audio at the top, okay, and then we just save that, and that saves into the user's My Files area, ready to be used again next week. So if I was a child, that would save into my My Files. Now, as a teacher, just to make this blindingly obvious, because it has moved, we used to have a little pupil files button off the Launchpad, and that's been removed, which I think has thrown a few people. So to access your pupil content, you go to My Files, and then you've got your pupil files here along the left-hand side. And there's that mixed document that I've just saved. So if I go to pupils' files, and then you've got your class, and you can dip in and out of the pupils. Now, the other thing that isn't blindingly obvious that I like to point out is the option to tick the list files box. And that will show you pieces of work as they come in for the entire class. So you don't then have to go into each pupil's, you don't have to go into Lottie's folder, come out, go into Harry's folder, come out, go into Bobby's folder. You can just see, there we go, we've got Bobby, we've got Lottie, we've got Harry, we've got Harry. You can see all the pieces of work as they come in, and you can click on any of these and you've got them ready to look at. So that's how you can access the pupils' content, okay, once they've saved it. So that's creating a chip mix as an individual. What I'll do is I'll just very quickly show you the alternative for collating your class's work as a whole, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new JIT. Let's go from the start, shall we? Let's open this from JIT. Okay, so I'm going to go to Mix. And this, what am I going to do? Yeah, so I'm going to add in a heading page just very quickly. So Titanic work by class 1, for example. Okay, I'm going to leave that blank for now, but I'm going to add another page. So this time, you just need to think about the evidence that they've created. So I know that Lottie's created a right page with a Titanic poem. So I need to choose a right page, okay? So I'm going to make sure that that is a right page. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then I can go to that load button, and remember we've got our pupil files, so we can either load things that we've created as a user, but as a teacher I've got this additional option to be able to add pupil files. So pupil files, there's the piece of work that Lottie has created, so I'm going to click that, and that has added that in. I can then add another page, and for example I could do the same thing. I'm going to add in another right page. Could be a paint page, could be a chart page, doesn't have to be right. And I do the same thing. So I can go to load, pupil files, and then I can see all of my children's work in my class. Okay, so I can also specify, so I can say class 1, for example, class 2, I've got Northern Ireland, so it just depends on what class you're working with. I didn't prepare this properly. Let's just add in, have I got the Titanic? Clearly not, but we'll go with, maybe we're looking at different times in history, and I can keep going. So it could be that I now got a child that has created an animation instead. So again, I'm going to find my animation, choose the right page, format, open up my load, go to pupil files. Let's see if we've got Titanic in here. Nope, but I've got Neil Armstrong, so we'll go with that. And there we go. Okay. And that is my Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. Okay, and then I can save that, and I've got an option if I want to later to export that to J2 Journal. Okay, I hope that makes sense. JIT Mix is a little bit tricky to teach without being able to see whether you get it or not. Okay, it takes not a little bit of practice, but I think because it just works ever so slightly differently to the other JIT tools, with having to choose the page layout and the tool, that sometimes it can get a bit confusing. Generally, if you know that a pupil has created content and you can't find it, it's generally because when you've chosen your page layout, you haven't chosen the appropriate tool. So for example, maybe a pupil's created a writing piece of work and you've loaded it as a paint page. That will usually be the reason why you can't then find that piece of work, because you've accidentally clicked just a paint page. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about J2 Journal. Okay, so J2 Journal, for anybody that doesn't know, is a tool for digital journaling, reflection and profiling. Okay, so it provides a feed of work demonstrating progress over time. Pupils and teachers can upload various content, and actually schools can choose to allow parents, if you're using the parent portal, parents will have access to the parent portal, and you can choose to allow parents to upload if you wanted to. You don't have to, and by default it's switched off, so don't worry. Pupils and parents can only see tagged content. That makes sense in a second. There is the option for comments and interaction. So pupils and parents and teachers, you can all comment, you can all interact. So it's really nice for broadening that audience beyond just your classroom walls. And Journal can be used independently or alongside Parent Portal. So it provides visibility for parents and carers. Now we have got a whole webinar on setting up your journals, the different settings that there are in Journal, and that's on our YouTube channel. So I'm not going to go into the whole setting up a journal, but I'm going to show you how JITmix can now sort of work within your journal as a kind of evidencing tool. Okay, so I'm going to open up my journal and I'm going to go to my class journal. Okay, so journal is here and class 1 is my class journal. So I'm going to click on that. And there is our evidence book that I created earlier. So this is our Yayoi Kusama evidence book that we had a little look at earlier. Okay, I've added in just an explanation about what we did in the lesson, how we use the tools. We use JIT Paint, we use the bold colours and dot patterns, and I've added it into a JITmix showcasing all of the children. And I've actually tagged the children that were involved in that particular piece of work. So I can see Bobby, and I can see Harry and Lottie. So I've chosen to tag those children against that particular piece of work. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can add a piece of work as a teacher. And then I'm going to show you how the children can add work in a much simpler way. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the new button. So this is how we can add content. Now as a teacher, I've got the option to add in a title. I was just thinking how I was going to write Titanic, which is why I said Titanic. We created Titanic evidence books using JITmix. Now you don't have to add in the description. It would help if I could spell, or title, but sometimes it just helps for contextualizing the activity, what that particular file shows, maybe the lesson, what was done in the lesson, that kind of thing. Okay, and then we go to add file. Now this is where we've got lots of different options. Now we're really going to focus on my files and pupil files, but you do have the option to add in photos, audio, video, links to other places, external websites, for example, or you can upload content. So you do have all these other options as well. So I'm going to add from my files because I created that Titanic workbook and it's in my files. Okay. So that's going to open it up, and there, I don't know why the thumbnails, no, that's the one we've just created. This is my Titanic one. So I'm going to click on that and click OK. So that has added that. I can add additional ones. So it could be that, you know, you add all of your children's mix files if you wanted to. So I could go into pupil files and I can find a specific child's documentation. So for example, I look at Harry, I could add in that painting, for example. He's got some audio recorded there. He's got some wonderful me. So there's lots of things. So you can add directly from a pupil's file for them. But I'm just going to stick with that particular file. And then I go to next. And this is where I tag my children. I do have the option to tag all pupils. Just be aware that if you have the parent portal linked, when you tag all pupils, all parents will also be able to see that particular piece of work. So just be mindful if you've got things like pupil photographs in there or names, and just be mindful. So I'm just going to tag, for example, I'm going to tag Bobby, Harry, and Lottie. Okay, and I can click next. Now I've created these folders and there is an add folder button here. So I can tag these. So I could say, right, well, that was history, ICT, she's done a bit of literacy in there, and world around us. But you can structure your folder structure however you want. So that could be podcasting, coding, digital presenting, digital publishing, whatever it is that you want. And then click next. And this is quite nice. This is a recent addition. You can also tag against progression frameworks. So we do have the SEER framework loaded in for our Northern Irish schools, and also the curriculum for excellence loaded in for my Scottish colleagues that are out there. Okay, now it should be clever enough to know which area you're joining us from. So if you're in Northern Ireland, it should automatically load the SEER framework. If you're in Scotland, it should automatically load the curriculum for excellence. Okay, now I'm going to choose the SEER. I'm going to choose the using ICT. I'm going to choose level 3, for example, and then I can tag which of the 5 E's these children have hit. And I'm going to say all. Are there 5s? There's an extra one in there. But I've tagged all 5 E's, and there we go. And then I just hit this cross, and that is going to tag those framework statements against that piece of work. And then I click create, and there we go. I've got that evidence book ready in my journal, ready to go. Okay, so that's how we can add in. As a teacher, that's how we can add in. For the children, that can be a really long, laborious process, and especially for our youngest learners, that can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so that is why we have added in this publish to journal button. It's in both J2 Create, so here, and also all of the JIT tools. You'll notice I pointed it out earlier. We are also adding it in to these tools, so photo, microphone and video tools. There will soon be that publish to journal button as well. So really great for building up that independence for the children, being proud of the work that they've created and wanting to publish it to their class journal. Now, don't worry, all submitted content stays in the moderate area, which I'm going to show you in a second, until published by a teacher. So nothing's going to appear on that public journal unless a teacher says, yes, it is okay, and that you've checked it. Okay, so I have a pupil logged in here. So this is Lottie. Let's open up what she got. So she's got this Titanic picture that she's created. Okay, carrying on with the Titanic theme. She can just press this button up here. So she presses that. Now, I generally say create 1 journal per class. So for example, Lottie's in class 1, so just create 1 journal for class 1. Now, the reason I say that is because otherwise they will have to choose which class out of the list. So that's not too bad because there's only, she's in two classes. But if they don't read, that can be tricky, and it just adds an extra step. So if she was only in 1 class, so I'm going to click OK, it would just go straight to that. So she would click publish a journal and it would just come up with that, and she would click OK. So that's why I generally say just 1 journal per class. Okay. And that, as I said, that will stay in the moderate area until the teacher approves that particular piece of work. But that's how easy it is for the children to create. And in J2, here we go, if I go to J2 Create, it's the same. They click on the publish a journal, they choose their class, and they click create, and that is then sent that. Okay, so just to finish that process from the teacher's perspective, what you will end up with, so this is my class journal. I'm just going to refresh that page. There we go. I've now got 4 because I've just sent 2 as a pupil in my moderate area. You'll also have a little number that shows on your journal, and you'll also get little notifications as a teacher that there are 2 new entries. So that'll be in your notification centre up here. Okay, you can mark those as read when you read them. So I can click on that. I can go to my moderate area. can wait a wee second. And there we go. So there is my piece of work that I've just sent from J2 Create. I can edit that if I wanted to. I can scroll through. There's Lottie's picture, there's Lottie's smart rules, and there's another piece. So I'm going to just approve this one. So that's the only one I'm going to approve. I do also have the option to approve all. So if you go through it and you've got 30 pieces of work, you don't have to click approve on all 30. Just click approve all, and that will then publish them all. So then if I go back to class 1 and I scroll down, because she sent it earlier, and if I refresh my page, there we go. There is that piece of work that, and it has tagged it against Lottie because she's the one that has sent it. Okay, so that could be a JIT mix, J2 Create, audio file, whatever it is. Okay. So that's adding as a pupil. Okay. So I hope that's been useful. I'm going to open up the floor to see if there's any questions at all. Please feel free to add them into the chat. I'm more than happy to showcase anything that maybe I haven't been clear on or that you want to know a little bit more information on. If not, thank you ever so much for giving up your precious time. We do appreciate it. We know how time poor you are as teachers. It's very tricky. So I hope to see you for more training. And remember, we've got those live lessons and more training in the teachers area. So please feel free to book on to any of those sessions. So I am going to stop recording now, just in case anybody is shy. But as I said, please feel free to add